For clarification, first, for this and possibly future videos, I am indirectly referencing people I know in real life, and I intend to keep their privacy within the stories involving them. Second, I do not intend to make any drastic changes to the relationships involved in the stories. I'm simply just telling my story for the sake of telling the story. And before you ask, yes, I do have weekly therapy to talk more in depth about these things. These stories are not a cry for help, so don't worry. I am more of a knight type rather than the prince type, and allow me to explain that. Over my years of interacting with people, specifically women, girls in the case of my school era, I would build my relationships with them from some sort of attraction, as any normal person does, right? Wrong. The only exceptions being my first best friend from primary school days and one of my OGs. I must state though that me doing this as a gateway to building relationships had different reasons in the past from what it is now. In the past, there was something about said girl that would make me want to interact with them most of the time. Could be from the way they look, to the way that they treat me, to their personality, could honestly just be anything. In my child brain at the time, I would think, I'm attracted to this person for XYZ reason, let me interact with them and see where this relationship goes. From then the relationship would develop into what they are or possibly were in the past, most of the time being friendships. Is that weird? I still don't know, but let me continue. Weird or not, this would bring up complications for me because in the occasions where romantic loneliness would attack me, what do you think my emotions would bring up? In school, after trying to find where I fit in with making friends by roaming around the school at break and lunch on my own, my first 3 actual friends were all female, and one of them in particular I had eyes for, which was one of the reasons I initially built the courage to go and talk to them and try and make friends with them. Don't misunderstand me. I didn't look at all 3 of these girls and think, oh, I like this about this one, and oh, this one looks pretty, and I like her, and blah 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 blah. No, I only really had eyes for one of them initially. I found I would often try to be on her good side, in particular because of my attraction towards her, even though at the time we were just friends and there was no known displayed indication of attraction from both parties. To be honest, I don't think she ever even really liked me like that for real. This is where the prince and the knight themes would come in. I would do things for her whether she asked me to or not, basically to win her favor in hopes that it would make me eventually building up the courage to ask her out less scary and maybe easier. Often called the simp approach. To point out what was specifically wrong with me doing that was that I didn't quite have a good grasp of my self-worth back then, and that was the difference between a knight trying to win his princess's favor over a prince trying to meet halfway and gaining the princess's heart in exchange for his. And if you're not careful, like I wasn't, it is very, very easy to be taken advantage of in this position. If you want me to tell you the details of that story, do let me know. So that was the past definition of the knight and the prince, but now that I'm in my mid-20s, the meaning of those positions have changed for me. However, I still see myself as the knight. Why? Allow me to explain. As I mentioned before, when building relationships with women, I used to find something I found romantically attractive about them first before trying to initiate a relationship and seeing where that goes, again often turning into a friendship. Now, more days than not, I tend to find something I find platonically attractive about them, as well as a reason to want to initiate a relationship with them. An example being something like, oh, I think this person is cool and I might have XYZ in common, I want to be friends with them. Or even something simpler like, I've seen this person at least 3 times now, let me chat to them. However, subconsciously, there will always be something I find romantically attractive about them, and the problem with that is that it will bring complications for me when observing my relationships with said friends whenever loneliness attacks me. And the worst part is I struggle with this internally because I fear drastically changing what my relationships are with the friends I have in these positions over subconscious feelings I don't have a full grasp on by doing something as simple as telling them directly. But Anthony, where does the knight and the prince theme come in here? Simple. It again comes from the approach. Where I am in my love life is in the long run or the future, I'd like to have a family of my own one day, loving wife and kids. And that takes development. I'm not in a position to engage. Do you know what position I am in though?
No.
That's right, the short term. I'm in the position to engage relationships I have for what they are, and right now those are friendships. Could one of my friendships develop into a romantic relationship? Maybe, but I don't know the answer to that really. And for someone that's fearful of drastic changes, I may never know the answer to that unless the other party decides to take that jump before I do. The knight's approach here is that I only focus on the battle or task or whatever you want to call it in front of me, and not necessarily the bigger picture behind it all the time, like the prince would get to see. Even still, like a knight, I even lean towards doing things I don't often have to do just for the satisfying feeling behind being favorable. But the difference this time is that I will only do it when I want to. And yes, there are occasions where I don't feel like being favorable. I know I can be the prince, and one day when I'm ready to be the prince, I'll put my intentions on display for that said person for them to either accept or reject me. But until then, when my mindset has been changed, I think I'll stick to being the knight.